Civil rights activists have slammed what they call racial discrimination in the Israeli society. Some 5,000 Israelis, mainly Ethiopians, demonstrated in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, to protest against discrimination against the Ethiopian community. A similar rally was staged in a southern city last week, which was also attended by thousands. The demonstrations were sparked by a new report earlier this month, which revealed that city residents had signed a paper not to rent or sell houses to Ethiopians.
But we want to change the discrimination. We want to change the racism. We want to change the situation that we have here.
Palestinians are another group targeted by racism. Recently, an ultra-nationalist Israeli member of the Knesset threw water on her Arab Israeli colleague. Also, a ruling by the Israeli Supreme Court has stipulated that Palestinians married to Arab Israelis cannot live in Israel. To discuss that a bit further, we're joined now by Mr. Ralph Schoenman, author of The Hidden History of Zionism, who's joining us now on the line from Berkeley, California. Mr. Schoenman, thank you very much for joining us now. Racism in the Middle East's only quote-unquote democracy, does that surprise you?
Well, of course it does not surprise me because it's been intrinsic and inherent to the Zionist state from its inception. It has to be emphasized here that the majority of the Israeli population are what they call Mizrahim or the Sephardim. They're Oriental Jews, by which is meant Jews from Yemen or from Iraq or from Iran or from Morocco. And when you're speaking to or meeting a Jew from Yemen or Iraq or Morocco, you're talking to an Arab, or in the case of Iran, a Persian who has Jewish religious convictions. But a Jew from Yemen or a Jew from Morocco looks like Amal Abdel Nasser, has the wedding customs, the mores, the eating customs, the family activity of their Arab confrère. And the consequence in Israel has been that the Mizrahim, though the majority of the Israeli population, have always been subject to a basically racist discrimination, which has been intrinsic. Indeed, the Oriental Jews have comprised a tiny fraction of the graduates from universities or of those who are actually civil servants or work in government positions. And what is manifesting itself at the moment in Jerusalem is an outpouring of protest by Ethiopian Jews who were brought to Israel, by the way, in actually an organized campaign by the Zionist state in order to maintain the claim that they have a root in the region and in Africa, always subject to discrimination. It's instructive to note that when the Ethiopian Jews, the Falasha, were first brought on an organized basis, often without even their initiation within Ethiopia itself. It was a campaign initiated by the Israeli state. When they were brought to Israel and subject to discrimination, it was also demanded that they should be recircumcised. And we made the response at the time that it would be an appropriate thing for the Israeli cabinet to be publicly recircumcised in light of this demand. It's intrinsic, it's inherent. One manifestation of it, which I think was very clear, is the role of Naim Giladi. Naim Giladi is an Iraqi Jew who actually lived in southern Iran and was involved early in facilitating the movement to Israel of Jews from Iraq. And one of the consequences of this is that when he experienced the discrimination of which I speak, and I'm talking about a high rate of unemployment, slum conditions, inaccessibility to educational facilities, a living standard barely that above the treatment of the Palestinian population itself. Naim Giladi organized something called the Black Panther movement within Israel of the Oriental Jews, which has been a mass movement over decades in Israel itself. So what we're experiencing now in Jerusalem with the rising of Ethiopian Jews in response to specific racist events, namely the refusal to allow Ethiopians to live in areas the racist slurs that are directed at Ethiopian children when they're on buses, where they're told that they smell bad and they should put on deodorant, the violence that's directed against the Sephardim on a regular basis in Israel. Naim Giladi organized a movement about this, and he published a very important book called Ben Gurion's Scandals. One of the things that Naim Giladi was involved in exposing was that in the aftermath of the formation of the Israeli state, for the most part, it should be noted that the Jews within the Arab world were integrated within
Mr. Schoenman, I do apologize for interrupting you, but I just wanted to ask you specifically about these Ethiopian Jews again. You had mentioned that they had been brought in to Israel themselves. So then why exactly, what is the root cause of why they are being targeted, why they are targets of racism?
Well, I want to emphasize that at the time, it was actually what Naim Giladi had exposed in his book Ben Gurion's Scandals, and it's been widely acknowledged that the Israeli Shin Bet and Mossad undertook the blowing up of synagogues and bombed attacks on Iraqi Jews to create a hysteria and a panic in order to induce a flood of Iraqi Jews to Israel. This is an expression of the manner and nature of the Zionist colonial enterprise and the discrimination that's been inflicted upon Oriental Jews has been intrinsic. It is decades old. It's since virtually the formation of the state itself. And the overall exploitation takes place now in a context of a deepening economic crisis, which we've discussed before, that's unfolding in Israel and is particularly experienced by the most oppressed, the Palestinian population and the Oriental Jews, and the racism that is being reflected in the protest against the racism is a manifestation of this nature of the Zionist state in its inception.
All right, we'll have to leave it for now. That was Mr. Ralph Schoenman, author of The Hidden History of Zionism, joining us on the line from Berkeley, California. Mr. Schoenman, as always, we appreciate your insight here at Press TV.